ask them, and I answer them. Hello everyone, neilrocks87 here. It's time for my Q&A video. I got all the questions here right on my handy dandy laptop. So let's jump right into this. First questions, we're going to start with my Facebook friends first, and then we'll move on to the YouTube guys. First set of questions comes to me from my friend Jessica on Facebook. Thank you, Jessica. She asks, what is your favorite childhood memory? I'd have to go with, when I was really young, I wasn't old enough to go to school yet, and my mom worked for an older lady who ran a home business. She ran a bakery. It wasn't open to the public, but my mom worked there making cookies, bread, all that stuff to be sold at like craft shows and flea markets around the state. And as I said, I was too young to go to school, and they would watch Family Feud and The Price is Right in the morning. And that's, right there is kind of how I became a fan of The Price is Right. I have a lot of good memories of watching Price is Right with her and her husband, Henry. So, that right there is one of my favorite childhood memories. Next question, what is your favorite movie? I'd have to go with Mighty Morphin Power Rangers' movie or the Back to the Future trilogy. Back to the Future is just awesome. That's one of the best sci-fi movie series in the history of the world. Next question she asks, if you could buy any car, unlimited budget, what would it be? Well, if I had an unlimited budget, I'd buy a whole fleet of cars. If I had to pick one, though, it would probably be a BMW or maybe a Cadillac. But if I was going to buy a fleet of cars with an unlimited budget, I'd have a BMW, Cadillac, a Mustang, a Camaro, and probably a Corvette, and definitely an old Chevelle. Those are pretty cool cars. I have a lot of Hot Wheel cars of them, and they seem to be becoming my favorite car to collect now. If I was going to have an old Chevelle, it would probably be a 68 or a 69. Something like that. But I wouldn't hesitate to pick up a 1970 Chevelle either. Let's see, next question. If you could visit any city in the world, where would that be? The only place I'd really want to go is probably New York City. I don't know why, that's just one of the places I thought would be fun to visit. I had the opportunity to go when I was in high school because we took a senior class trip to New York City, but I knew at the time my dad wasn't going to be able to afford it. So I didn't go, but any place in the world or any city in the world would definitely be New York City. It just you see it all the time on movies and in TV shows. Like movie I saw a couple of years ago, the first Smurfs movie, that took place in New York City. There's a lot of other shows that do, but this looks like a fun place to visit. Number 5. What food could you eat every day and not get sick of? That would have to be cereal. I eat cereal probably about 6 days a week. Sometimes 7 if I have to. So, definitely cereal. If I had to pick one specific cereal, I'd have to be Lucky Charms, which is actually what I had for breakfast this morning. And her 6th and final question is, favorite teacher? Let's see, I'm going to pick one from elementary school because that's how I know her. I'd have to say either my 2nd grade teacher, Miss Brockman, or my 5th grade teacher, Mrs. Pyatt, who I actually ran into her at the grocery store. It was like right before Christmas, so I thought that was pretty cool. And that's it for Jessica's questions. Thank you again, Jessica, for sending those in. Next set of questions comes to me from my friend on Facebook, Molly. Would you rather fly or be invisible? Probably both. I'd rather fly because my dad and I, when we drive around town here, we just see so many bad drivers. These people who drive down, like here in Fond du Lac, Winnebago Drive or something, they're driving down there. The speed limit's like 35, I think, and people are going like 20 or 25, looking everywhere but the road, weaving all over the place. I mean, it's an ongoing thing. It's not just on Winnebago Drive, but it's everywhere. It's a never-ending process. Almost every trip to town, we're stuck behind someone who's yakking on the phone or driving really slow, sightseeing, looking everywhere but the road. It's getting ridiculous. But I would also like to be invisible, just to spy on other people without them knowing I'm there. But if I had it my way, I'd have both. Next question from Molly is Mac or PC and why? I gotta go with PC on that one. We've had Microsoft computers in my house since our first computer, which had Windows 95 on it. Didn't even have a whole gigabyte of hard drive space on it. We still have Microsoft stuff right now. My laptop has Windows 7 on it, even though I'm not the biggest fan of Windows 7, but my desktop computer has Windows Vista, and I haven't used Macintosh computers all that much to really get used to them. We had some in elementary school and high school and middle school and all that, and they were more complex, I thought. But I definitely prefer PC over Mac. Definitely. Next question she asked, it's the same question Jessica asked, favorite childhood memory. I'll provide another one here since I got asked twice. My favorite childhood memory would have to be coming home after school. I remember specifically in 1st and 2nd grade, and probably 3rd grade too, or part of 3rd grade anyway. Coming home every day, right after school, I'd get home just in time to watch Power Rangers. It was on at 4 o'clock on Fox Kids, and that was usually right around the time I got home. I'd run like hell to the house, drop my backpack, and run into the living room and turn on Power Rangers. It was usually just starting or already started. So that I remember a lot of in my childhood. All right. Number 4. If you could be on any TV show or star in a movie, which would it be? This is actually something I actually thought of a while ago. I think it would be really cool for me to be on The Big Bang Theory. I love that show. I'm not an actor. I haven't taken any acting classes, but if I had a small crash course on what to do, I think I could probably make it happen. Maybe. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe I'd totally suck at it. Number 5. If you can make a TV show of your own, or movie or comic book, etc., what would the plot or premise be? Well, aside from creating my own game show, I'd probably make a movie probably either about me, about my life, or like something about bullying, because that is a growing problem these days. So something along the lines of that. And last but not least, what is your dream job? Well, right away I would say I'd love to be the executive producer of The Price is Right. That would be a lot of fun. It's hard to believe that show's been on the air they're about to start their 42nd season. That's insane. So, that's all I got from Molly. And Molly, thank you. Now it's time to move on to the YouTube friends here. Up next is a fellow member of the Price is Right Pricing Game Recap team. I'm 264 Shirt. Thank you. First question. If you haven't lived in Wisconsin all your life, where did you originally live? I was born in Wisconsin, lived here all my life, born right here in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. We almost moved to Indiana in, would have been 1996. It would have been right after I finished second grade. My dad and mom went down to Indiana to go look at a potential job my dad was going to take, and it turned out to be almost exactly the same thing what he was doing here. And so we would have ended up moving there if he had taken the job. But we didn't. My dad ended up getting a different job eventually, probably, I think later that year or the year after. And that's how that went, and I'm still here. I still live in the same house I've lived in since 1988, so that's that. Number 2, what is your favorite show on Nickelodeon in the 90s? My favorite all-time Nickelodeon show would have to be Double Dare, but that originates in the 80s, and it was rerun a lot in the 90s. So I don't know if that really counts. But if I had to pick one that, or even two, that comes from the 90s, it would probably have to be either Legends of the Hidden Temple or Nickelodeon Guts. So, what place in the world would you most like to see? Probably, as I mentioned before, New York City. Just looks like a fun place to go. Number 4, if not The Price is Right, what game show would you do recaps of? He's referring to YouTube here. This is actually something I thought of a while back too. Recently, a couple months ago, I bought a DVD set of the entire run of Nickelodeon Guts. And I thought to myself that it would be fun to do recaps of that. But after realizing that it would just be too time consuming, and I have to go back and watch all the episodes. I'd probably have to film some of it just to show stuff what would happen. It would be too time consuming, and I just don't have the time for that. But it was something I did consider. Number 5, what is your favorite music type? That would be rock and heavy metal. That's kind of where my username originates from. So definitely rock, metal. I've been listening to Def Leppard since, I want to say since I was probably 5, maybe even 4, probably even younger than that. My all-time favorite song is Pour Some Sugar on Me. So, rock and heavy metal for that one. Number 6. Who is your favorite TV personality? It would seem typical of me to say Bob Barker, although I do have a lot of respect for him, but I have a lot of respect for Mark Summers, who hosted Double Dare. With everything he's gone through with his OCD and hosting that show and all the stuff he's just gone through in general, I got a lot of respect for him. That I would love to meet him someday. That would be pretty cool. And I did get a 7th question from I'm264 shirt, and I don't have a problem with that. His last question is, what high school did you go to? Fond du Lac High School here in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. Graduated in 2006. And actually, I just put up my high school graduation here on YouTube. Just about 2 months ago. So if you want, you can check that out. So those are the questions from I'm264 shirt, and I thank him for sending them to me. Okay, next set of questions comes to me from Alex Peras. Thank you, Alex. First question, have you ever went to a taping of a game show? I have not. As I mentioned before, I live in Wisconsin, and most of the game shows are taped out in California. So So, sorry for that little interruption there. So, like I said, I live in Wisconsin, and most of the game shows are taped in California, so it's not like I can just call a cab to go see one. So, no, I haven't, and I'd love to. I'd love to see either Price is Right or Wheel of Fortune. Those would be the two I'd want to go to. Number 2, what is your favorite pricing game on The Price is Right? That would have to be Make Your Move. I don't know what it is about that game. I like how it looks. I like the concept of it. I love the music that they used to use on it. And the game debuted in 1989, and if you look at how the set piece looks, it doesn't look that old. I have to say it looks very futuristic for 1989. And they haven't, as far as I know, they haven't updated anything about the game yet, and I hope to God they don't. I think the only thing they've changed is how fast the lights flash on it. But that's about it. My other favorite game is Magic Number. So, I don't know. I seem to like the games that aren't very, I don't want to say very unpopular, but not as popular as everyone else likes. Like a lot of people say Plinko's their favorite game. I'm not going to disagree with that. I think Plinko's 3rd or 4th on my list. But Make Your Move and Magic Number are just my favorites. Number 3, which is better, Mac or PC? As I said before, we've had Microsoft stuff in my house since our first computer in 1990. I want to say 1997. So, and like I said, Macintosh computers are a little more complex for me. I haven't spent a whole lot of time on Macintosh computers to really understand them, but I just prefer PC better. Those were the only questions I got from Alex. So I thank Alex for sending them to me. Next set of questions comes to me from Gary Newkirk. Thank you, Gary. First question he asks, what soda do you like better, Coca-Cola or Pepsi? I'm a Pepsi guy. I drink Diet Pepsi all the time, all day, every day. And that, I know that's not good for me, but I really don't care. I drink Diet Pepsi, but I only drink Diet Coke if I have to. Like if I'm at McDonald's or something, they only have Coke products there. So if I'm there, I get a large Diet Coke or something. Or if I'm at the mall, all they have there now is Coke machines. So if I'm thirsty, I grab one of them. Number 2, what is your least favorite pricing game of all time? That right there is an easy one. It's a game called That's Too Much. I hate that game. I have a nickname for it. It's called That's Too F***ing Hard. Because it's the truth. I hate it. I actually think the game needs to be updated. They need to refurbish the game. What they need to do is have an army tank fall on it. There. So, I hate that game. Of all the games I've had on The Price is Right that are on the show now or have been on the show in the past, I hate that one the most. I just cannot stand it at all. Number 3, what is your number 1 favorite 1990s Nickelodeon game show? As I said before, Legends of the Hidden Temple, or it's not really a game show per se, Nickelodeon Guts. After that, my ranking for 90s game shows on Nickelodeon would be Legends of the Hidden Temple, Nickelodeon Guts, and then probably after that be Figure It Out. Number 4, what is your number 1 favorite meal? I have to go with mac and cheese on that one. It's simple, it's fun, it's something everyone had at some point in their childhood, I would assume. and it's just delicious. Not much more to say about that. Number 5, who is your favorite model on The Price is Right? You regular viewers of my channel know the answer to this one. And that would be Rachel Reynolds. I don't know what it is about her. I just think she's the most beautiful woman in the world. So, she's number 1. She probably will be for eternity. And number 6. Besides the United States, if there was any place you would like to go, what country would that be and why? The only place I'd really want to go outside the United States is probably to any of the Caribbean islands, like Jamaica or Bahamas or something like that. It'd be nice to go there, you know. I would say Hawaii, but that is the United States. But it'd be fun to just go down to the beach and stare at girls. I don't know. That's all from Gary, so thank you, Gary. Next questions are from apizzle90, aka Alex. Thank you, Alex. Number 1. How do you think the Packers will do this season? I was just looking at the schedule before for this upcoming season, and there's some key games we're gonna have to try to win. We have San Francisco in week 1. We have, I think, the Ravens in week 6, and we play the Falcons pretty late in the season too. I think that's like week, I want to say 12 or 13. And we also play the Giants, and we do play the Steelers. I think that's week 16. Those are key games we're going to have to win. But the Packers' offense definitely looks different this season because Donald Driver just retired. Greg Jennings defected to the Vikings, or as I call them, the Vikings. Tom Crabtree, our tight end, is now with Tampa Bay. So, but we still have Jordy Nelson, Jermichael Finley, James Jones, as far as I know. So I think there's a lot of potential there, and whoever else we might have gotten in the draft. I didn't follow the draft close enough. So, but nonetheless, we really do need a better defense, and I can say that Rodgers needs to learn how to get rid of the ball. He's now the highest paid player in the National Football League now, so I hope he really steps up his game now. You know, we can't afford these sacks and incompletions and all that stuff, but the incompletions aren't as bad as the sacks, but if you have to just get rid of the ball, he needs to work on that. Number 2, do you think the Packers should retire Brett Favre's number? Absolutely. Favre hasn't been playing in the last couple of years, and this idea has been tossed around recently, and I think it's time to move on. Let's just carry on with our lives. Let's just put this behind us, and it's time. It's time for this to happen. And I don't think there's been any Packer numbers retired since Reggie White's number was retired, I think in 2005, I want to say. Other than that, I think there's only a handful of Packer numbers that are retired. There's like maybe 5 or 6 numbers that are retired right now. So it's, to answer the question, yes, it's time to move on. Speaking of moving on, number 3, how many Hot Wheels do you own? Well, I counted them all, not actually. I have albums of all of them, or photos of them all on Facebook, and I went through and counted them that way, and added that with stuff I don't have pictures of yet. I come out to approximately 1,400 of them. It sounds like a lot, but it's not really. There was a guy on Jeopardy, I want to say about a year and a half ago, that when Alex was doing his interview, Alex Trebek that is, doing his interview with him, he said he was a Hot Wheels collector, and he asked him how many he had, and he said he had over 5,000 of them. So my collection pales in comparison to that guy's. So what is the rarest Hot Wheels car you own? I'd have to go, if I would, it'd be typical of me to say any of my treasure hunts, but other than that, I'd have to go with either my A-Team van or my Scooby-Doo Mystery Machine. Those, I think, are the rarest. I got my Scooby-Doo Mystery Machine in my my sealed one of my sealed cases, and those were I got 3 of them in the case, and I never saw a single one of them in the stores. So I was lucky I got that, and I ended up selling the other 2 on eBay. I got about $20 out of them, actually. So yeah, the A-Team van or the Scooby-Doo Mystery Machine. Or maybe any of the mystery cars from 2010. I think those would be pretty rare, too. Next question Alex sent to me is, what are some of your favorite movies of all time? Well, as I said before, Back to the Future trilogy, love that. Power Rangers the movie, love that. Other than that, I'd have to go with Short Circuit, City Slickers 2, the Toy Story franchise. I remember a show, I think it was a Disney movie, or at least a Disney Channel movie, or whatever you want to call it. I don't even know if it was a Disney, but anyway, it was a movie in the mid-90s called Blank Check. That was pretty cool too. So those are some of my favorites. I'm sure I have more, but alright. Number 6, Alex's final question. He asked, do you like wrestling, and if so, who is your favorite wrestler? These days I'm not a wrestling fan, but I used to be. So I do remember a lot of funny and memorable moments, like Stone Cold Steve Austin driving the beer truck, Mankind being thrown off the top of the cage, and a lot of that stuff. I used to eat, sleep, breathe, and poop wrestling. That's how it was for me. I used to be a wrestling fan. It just got to a point where it just wasn't that entertaining for me anymore. And I was very irresponsible with my money at the time. I would just buy I had to have like every shirt, every hat, everything I could possibly buy. And it was, I was not financially responsible at the time. I will openly admit that. So these days, I'm glad I'm not a wrestling fan, because it would be a lot worse. So but I do occasionally watch old clips of stuff on YouTube. Not very often, but occasionally I do. Like I said, Mankind being thrown off the top of the cage. I remember watching that originally. I think someone taped the show for me and I watched it later, but anyway. Those questions all came from apizzle90, aka Alex, so thank you, Alex. Next we have questions from J Van Diesel, who claims he's going to hell someday. I wouldn't doubt that for a minute. Number 1 question, least favorite game played on the turntable. He's referring to The Price is Right here. I'd have to go, I actually had to look at a list to figure out what games on the turntable I don't really like. If I had to pick a current game that was on the turntable, I'd probably have to say Flip Flop, just because they play it more often than they need to. But if I had to pick a game, of all the games that ever existed, I'd probably say the game Joker. I know there's a lot of people who aren't a big fan of it, but of all the games that are playing on the turntable, Joker and maybe Flip Flop are my least favorites. Number 2, best prize ever offered in the Drew Carey era of Price is Right. I gotta say the Tesla Roadster that they had in Golden Road in 2010. That was pretty awesome to see. I remember that. It was the Earth Day show. That's what it is. The Earth Day show in 2010, and it was played in Golden Road, but that day they called it Green Road. So that was pretty cool. That up until this past season, that was the most expensive prize they've ever offered on the show. It was over $112,000. So that was pretty cool. Why do you not like Rob Wilson as the only male model on Price is Right? It's not so much... Well, here's an explanation. It's nothing against Rob Wilson. It's just the concept of Price is Right having a male model. I know it comes off as me hating Rob, and that's not the case. I just don't like the concept of male models on The Price is Right, and there are other people who feel the same way. Even one day my sister was home from school during some show that aired this past season, and Rob happened to be on that day. Even my sister, she didn't specifically say it, but she thought it was a dumb idea that they had male models on the show. She didn't specifically say it was a dumb idea, but she just commented saying, they have male models on the show? So, I don't know. It's obvious that the producers of Price is Right these days are appealing majority to more women than men. The male models, the designer crap they have on the show all the time, the shoes, the handbags, whatever the hell it is. And not to mention, I noticed probably over half of the contestants that are called down on each show is women. More than half of them. That's what it appears like to me. So, it comes off as me hating Rob, but it's not. It's just that I don't like the concept of Price is Right using male models. So, that's that. Number 4, if you could go out with any model besides Rachel from Price is Right, who and why? I'd probably have to be Amber Lancaster, because she's my second favorite model. I actually know she is a bit of a Green Bay Packers fan, because I have seen on Twitter conversations between her and Clay Matthews, and maybe even Aaron Rodgers too. But if I was going to go out with anyone besides Rachel, who's actually married anyway, it would be Amber. Plus, she's just as smoking hot as Rachel is too. Now, number 5. Which game that is retired would you like to see come back and why? That's a no-brainer right there. I'd have to go with Super Bowl. Drew would have a lot of fun playing that game. And not to mention, it uses small prizes, and you have to guess the price the same way you do in a couple of the other games they have. Like, it uses the same not the higher lower system, but it uses the same pricing technique you use in Pathfinder and Secret Decks. Super Bowl was such a fun game. It was sad to see that it was retired in the late 90s, but Super Bowl is definitely my choice for that one. And last but not least, from J Van Diesel, he asks me, where in time is Carmen Sandiego? You got me on that one, dude. You got me. If I had to guess, it'd probably be either in 1955 with Doc Brown and Marty McFly, or or in the year 3000 with the Time Force Power Rangers, because that's where they came from, the year 3000. So that's my guess. So thank you to Jay Van Diesel for sending me those questions. Next we have questions from Ben Mason. First question he asks, and these are all Price is Right related questions too. Do you think Race Game needs to be refurbished? I would have to say yes to that one. That one, that's definitely a candidate for being refurbished. As long as they don't drastically change it. I know the game doesn't run on the digital, like the computerized stuff you see on most of the games now, but like what they did with Range Game when they redid that was okay. I didn't really think it was necessary, but the difference between the old Range Game and the new Range Game, they didn't drastically change it. They basically painted it the same color, but I think in brighter colors. Brighter hues, I guess. So as long as they don't overdo it, like what they did with Bonus Game and Grand Game. Don't overdo it. What do you think of Rob Wilson this past season on The Price is Right? Well, as I said before it comes off as me hating Rob. Other than, what I said before, I'd have to say, how did he do on Price is Right? It'd probably have to be, I'd say he did okay. I'm not a big fan of the male models, but I think he did alright. I always thought it was cool whenever they had a pool table, he was playing with the balls there. I know there's a joke in there somewhere, but I'm not gonna say anything. He'd grab one of the cue balls, he'd toss it up in the air. I was just waiting for the day that he'd drop it on the floor, and I'd like to see what happens then. So, but I'd have to say he did alright. Number 3, do you think the big games, he means Golden Road, Triple Play, and 3 Strikes, do you think they should go back to being played regularly? Absolutely. This whole, we only see Golden Road 2 or 3 times a year, just isn't good enough. And that same goes for Triple Play. But I have to say, I think 3 Strikes is, they could play that a little more. I really didn't like the pricing game rotation that they used this past season. And I shouldn't be saying that because the season's not even over yet. But yes, they definitely need to. More of them and less of One Away, less Pathfinder, less of That's Too Much. Yes, definitely they need to play those more often. And his last question, he only sent me 4 questions. He asks, for the past 11 years on The Price is Right, the gray CBS curtains have been covered up in the audience, which I think was unnecessary. Do you think they should be brought back? This day and age, I'd have to say no. Because you think of the decorations that are in the audience right now with the large video screen, the cascading blue and orange, or not orange, blue and green lights around in the audience. The decorations that they've put in the audience over the past 11 years have helped distinguish older episodes from newer episodes. Like what he's talking about, the gray CBS curtains, I know exactly what he's talking about. I used to see them all the time when they never show Roddy on camera. More so in the 90s than anything else, but I don't think that bringing back the CBS curtains would do much. It would just kind of tone it down. I mean, do you think the CBS curtains are only there because when the studios were built, they weren't really built to have the cameras, using both the stage and the audience like Price is Right does. They were made for the audience to see what's on the stage, and that's it. No one cared what was behind the camera. So I don't think that bringing back the CBS curtains would do much. It wouldn't. If you kept the CBS curtains and all the other decorations, there was the big plasma screen and the lights and the rotating dollar signs on the Price is Right logos, it wouldn't work. I really don't think it would. So those questions were from Ben Mason, and I thank him. Next set of questions comes to me from Sports Guy 528. He says, if you were on The Price is Right, aside from Make Your Move and Magic Number, which pricing game would you like to play and why? I'd have to say Plinko for one, because that's just pure fun right there. Other than that, any game where it would require me to be part of the game, like covering up the numbers in Cover Up, or or any game where I'm actually involved. I'm not just standing there making a decision. That would be one of them. So any games like Cover Up, Master Key, that would be fun to play. I don't want to make this sound wrong, but any game where I'd have to like touch the props, like I said, Cover Up, Master Key, stuff like that. Number 2, what is the very first Price is Right show you watched? I have no idea. I've been watching the show now for over 20 years. I couldn't possibly remember what was the first show I watched. Although I will say the earliest games I do remember seeing are Most Expensive and Danger Price. Those two are just stuck in my head as the games I'd remember first. Whatever. Number 3, who has been your favorite Green Bay Packers player during your time? I'd have to say, before he started his retirement BS every year and getting arrogant with himself, I'd say Brett Favre. If not him, I'd probably have to say Reggie White. Those two were pretty good. I actually do have an autographed hat of Reggie White. I wish I knew where it was, though. But other than those two, the only other Packers player as my favorite is Aaron Rodgers. So, Rodgers, Favre, and Reggie White. Number 4, what would be your reaction if you played Plinko for $50,000 or for a new car? I assume he means any pricing game for a new car. I don't know what my reaction would be if I was on the show and played for a new car or Plinko or whatever. That would just have to come naturally. Whatever's happening, Who knows? Number 5. Throughout the years of Price is Right, who are your top 5 models from the past 41 years? This I narrowed down. I do have a top 5 here, but I have 2 honorable mentions first. My honorable mentions would have to be a lady who was on the show in the late 90s, Chantal Dubé, and my other honorable mention would be Lanisha Cole. I was disappointed to hear what happened with her and her in regards to leaving the show a couple years ago. That was just a bunch of BS. But my top 5 here, starting with number 5, I'd have to go with another lady who's no longer with the show. That would be Brandy Sherwood. Number 4, I'd have to say Amber Lancaster. Number 3, this goes way back to the early 90s and late 80s. That'd be Holly Hallstrom. Number 2 would be the lady who started it all back in 1972. It'd be Janice Pennington. And, as you know, number 1 would have to be Rachel Reynolds. Those are my top 5 and 2 honorable mentions. And And Sports Guy 528's last question here is, if you were part of the Green Bay Packers, what position would you like? It can be either as a player or part of the coaching staff. It's a pretty easy one. I have to say being the quarterback. Money, not so sure I'd be very, very big on the fame part, but the money, definitely the money. So those are from Sports Guy 528. And last but not least, my last set of questions comes to me from the Price is Right Pricing Game Recap Master, Mr. Horrigan. His first question is, what U.S. state would you most like to travel to? I'd probably have to say California. Try just to be on a game show, though. I really think I'd be a good contestant on Wheel of Fortune. I don't want to sound arrogant, but I think I would be pretty good at it. Number 2, which pricing game on The Price is Right should get refurbished the most? Well, as Ben Mason brought up before, I would definitely pick Race Game. If I had to pick any other games, I would say Switcheroo. That got a slight update this year. It wasn't very overdone or anything. It was just teeny tiny stuff. But if I had to pick something, I'd have to say either Bonus Game or Grand Game. I know what you guys are thinking of. Those two just got refurbished this past season, and you're right. But I didn't like what they did with Grand Game, and I really didn't like what they did with Bonus Game. It was what bugs me about Grand Game is the digital display for where they display $10,000 now. Just, it used to be all the way across the board almost, and now it's just kind of compressed together. It just doesn't look right. If they would have done a digitized version of what used to be there, I'd like it a lot more. And I think they kind of went overboard with where they display the target price. That was kind of, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that. So, and like I said, Bonus Game, I didn't like when they... I understand that they're trying to update the props and stuff, but the windows that light up at the end of the game that were blue, now that whole area is brown. It just doesn't look right. And the prize cards, those are just, they changed the color of them to like this olive drab brownish color. It just doesn't look right. So other than Race Game or Switcheroo, I'd have to say Bonus Game or Grand Game on that one. Number 3, what is your favorite female in rock music? That is kind of a hard one. I'd probably have to say Lizzie Hale from Hailstorm. She's pretty cool. I have both their albums, and I actually listen to every song from them. That's how good it is. In fact, I don't think I've taken their last album out of my stereo since I bought it. And that album is over a year old already. It came out, I think, in April or May of 2012. So, I'd have to say Lizzie Hale. If it wasn't Lizzie Hale, it'd be Maria Brink from In This Moment, though. Next question, number 4. Which occupation has the most beautiful women ever? I'm going to have to go with game show models on that one. But if I had to pick someone else, I'd have to say like swimsuit models, you know. Actually, Rachel from Price is Right is actually a Venus swimwear model too. She's been doing that, I think, just as long as she's been on Price is Right. So I think, yeah, game show models and swimsuit models, or lingerie models too, you know. Number 5. What game show do you like the least? I remember when Game Show Network had this show, and I really wasn't a fan of it. it was a show hosted by Tom Kennedy from I think the mid 80s. It was called Body Language. Didn't really care for it that much. But other than that, a few other shows I really didn't like. I wasn't big into Tattletales. That show, that goes back to the 70s a little bit. Tattletales and Newlywed Game, you know, maybe it's just that when we first got Game Shark and stuff, I was a little young to really understand those kind of shows. You know, or even the dating game, but Body Language is definitely one of them. But other than that, it'd be just about anything Game Show Network comes up with these days. I don't know. I don't even watch Game Show Network that much. Not anymore, anyway. And last question from Mr. Horrigan here is, what is your favorite season of the year, and what do you like doing most during the season? Or during that season? My favorite season of the year is probably spring. And what I like doing most there is not having to shovel snow. So, but other than that, it's just enjoying the warmer air. I mean, winter around here in Wisconsin seems like it lasts for forever. Easily like 6 months out of the year, it's cold and stuff. I'm not into. I don't really like fall that much because it just seems like those cold, dreary, kind of drab days, you know. I don't really like fall that much, but I'd have to say spring for sure. Spring, summer. So those are all my questions, guys. Maybe sometime in the future I'll do another Q&A video. I'm not really sure if that's ever going to happen or not, but so thank you to everyone who sent in their questions, to Mr. Horrigan, Sports Guy 528, J Van Diesel, who helped me come up with this idea of doing it because he did one, and my friends on Facebook, Molly and Jessica too, and there's some other people in between there too who sent me in questions. But thank you again for all this. Thank you for watching. This is neilrocks87. I'll see you next time.